Yeah, so what was really cool in Brussels was that we at the Arbitrum GovHack we presented the Treasure case study. So many of you have probably seen the Treasure case study already on our website. TreasureDAO is an Arbitrum based gaming DAO. For those of you who don't know, they also turns out that they're also the biggest delegate in Arbitrum. So they are like focused on, let's see, is it Treasure XYZ? I think so. Their main thing is like that they're focused on like creating like Steam or something like that for gaming, the whole gaming ecosystem. But it just so happens that they got a ton of Arbitrum delegated to them, and that meant that they were like participating in Arbitrum DAO as like a whole stream of work that they had to do separate from like actually building their gaming ecosystem. So that was a huge distraction. And one of the things that was interesting about helping to do this case study, what we end up doing is basically creating a council that has 8 people on it, and that council votes on behalf of this entire ARB delegation in the Arbitrum DAO, and then everyone else in Treasure DAO doesn't have to kind of like manually look at that. And I'll show you how that's set up in a second, and maybe ask Spencer to comment on the technical aspects of it. But what's particularly interesting about this is that it's a really good representation of what HATS does. And what they're able to do is reduce the operational costs of participating in using this power and the resources that they have in the DAO by taking all of these people who are in the actual Treasure DAO and delegating responsibility and authority to a smaller group that has accountability back up to the DAO. So instead of having, I don't know, 50 or 100 people who have to like consider all the stuff that's happening in Arbitrum and then build context and then vote and then have that vote passed on to this DAO, then they've reduced that to just 8 people who are able to kind of have this like really high context um, uh, uh, responsibility and to take care of it on behalf of the DAO. And I think that that's going to we see this in Rare DAO. Obviously, Brennan is here and he's demoed the Rare DAO tree and case study for us as well. And it's a similar pattern. I think we're going to see more and more is like the idea that you can gain operational efficiency or save operational costs by creating a HATS tree that does a specific purpose. Just to share a little more context on kind of how we got here. We originally were talking to Pepperoni Joe and the leadership of TreasureDAO. They were specifically looking for a solution to this problem. This is the way that the hats tree actually looks in the app. You have the top hat, which owns the signer gate, that's the module connected to the safe. You have the actual council that this is voting in the tally proposals and the snapshot proposals, which I'll show in the Safe UI in a second. And then you have the elected council members. So it's pretty general. Generally, we see this pattern a lot in terms of like creating a multi-sig with signers and as part of a Hatch tree. This pattern, I think, is in almost every Hatch tree. And Safe is probably one of our most potent and common integrations that people ask for or want set up. And then, of course, you can jump out from the Hats app to the safe itself. So you can see that this is the safe that they're using for the votes. And then you can see how they're using this for maybe 2 to 3 different votes per week. And it uses hats and it also uses the Zodiac Rolls mod. So again, part of the reason for sharing this is just saying like, okay, wow, celebrating this is a very simple but very powerful use case for hats. The other part of it is that we're about to investigate kind of the way that this is set up to explore the next version of the Hat Signer Gate and the UI components around this. So we'd love feedback if you want something like this set up, or you want to participate in kind of the requirements gathering we're going to do on the next version at the protocol level or at the contract module level and at the application layer, then we'd love to hear your thoughts. Any questions on that? And after questions, I'd like to go to Spencer to comment a little bit more about the technical implementation. Spencer, would you just talk a little bit about how that this is set up with roles mod and had signer gate and snapshot?
Yeah. So, um, who here is familiar with? I guess I guess I'm asking people to raise their hands again. Who here is familiar with the Zodiac roles mod? Okay, we got a couple people, three people. We got some balloons accidentally. Um, okay. So very briefly, the roles mod is this really powerful permissioning utility that you can use to extend the granularity of the permissions that people have when accessing or using the resources of a given safe multisig. So what it does is it's a safe module, so it gets approved, and it allows the safe itself to authorize different other users to take narrowly scoped actions on behalf of the safe. So it basically, so they don't have to rely on the signers to do those actions. They can, for example, be allowed to send a certain amount of tokens only to a certain address, or they can be allowed to vote in a governor DAO, in a specific governor DAO with a maybe even a specific type of proposal. So it's very, very flexible and granular access control for a safe, which is awesome. And that's a great fit for Hats because Hats is all about enabling and connecting to access controls everywhere. So what we do in order to connect up the Hat role with the Zodiac roles mod is we use Hat's signer gate in this case, or we could use Hat's wallet, or we could, well, I guess it's those two things. We use one of those, in this case, Hat signer gate, to give the hat, in this case, the arc hat, um, a give it access as defined in the roles mod. So what's happening here is we actually have two safes. So I think, as Nick mentioned, there's the TreasureDAO safe, which is a multi-sig, and I think it's like uh, 5 of 8 or 4 of 7 or something like that. I can't remember exactly. I mean, that's the main TreasureDAO. Like the TreasureDAO core team is on that multi-sig. And then the other one is the ARC. And this is uh, and actually, if you, maybe, yeah, this is good, Nick. Can you go to the modules section right here? So you'll see that this is the roles mod that has been added to the the main Treasure DAO multi-sig. And this roles mod is authorizing some address to have what it calls the arc role. And we'll get more into that in a second. But that arc role is given several permissions in order to act on behalf of the treasure safe. And it's basically 3 permissions. One of those is to vote on proposals in the Arbitrum. Actually, it's 2 permissions. One is to vote on proposals in the Arbitrum Governor DAO. And the second one is to vote in the Arbitrum snapshot, space. Voting in the Arbitrum snapshot space is a little bit tricky because snapshot is all off-chain signatures. So what's actually happening is that the authorization to vote in the snapshot space is really the authorization to create a specific set of smart contract signatures on behalf of the TreasureDAO multisig. So we have the arc, and that is a role in the roles mod. It's also a role as a hat. So what we're doing is we're basically connecting up the role as defined in the roles mod with the role as defined in hats, and then we're just like joining those together, and then the arc liaisons who are signers on the arc safe are able to collectively execute those type of transactions on behalf of the TreasureDAO multisig. There's like 3 levels more that we can go into, but that's like levels 1, 2, and 3 maybe of the technical aspects.
Awesome. Thank you, Spencer. That's super helpful. Any other follow-up questions from folks here about either the setup or the way it's being used, the technical details? Awesome. Well, I'll drop also the link here. If you haven't checked out the case study already, then definitely read the case study. That gives a pretty good high level. And yeah, happy to help set it up for anyone who needs it.